All right. Hi, everybody. My name's Kim Guess, and I'm a dietitian with the Be Well Work Wellness Program. And this is our Cook Well Berkeley Holiday Treats cooking class. Just FYI, on the screen here, it will say muted, but don't worry about it. You can ignore that. And let's get started. So let me just switch the video so you can see what I'm doing. All right. So, this class theme is kind of meant to be gifts that you could give for the holidays that are homemade, or things that you could bring to a holiday party or whatever you want, really. I think this is the 12th year we've done this class, so if none of these ideas are what you're looking for, we have dozens of other ideas on our website. Usually something savory, something sweet, often chocolate covered. So that's an easy way to make something kind of special for the holidays. And sometimes something in between, I guess. So today what we're making is we're making three things. We're making a something called toom, which is a Lebanese garlic dip that I served with some vegetables. You can taste it. We're also making a pistachio chocolate truffle inspired by Dubai chocolate and an MSG seasoning mix. So I will explain that when we get to it. Okay, so first what we're gonna do is make the pistachio crunch balls. So has anybody here heard of Dubai chocolate or tried it? Okay, about half the room, maybe a little more. So Dubai chocolate was first made by a chocolate shop in Dubai. It's a pistachio cream filled with a toasted, shredded phyllo dough, and then that's stuffed into a chocolate bar. So I tried making it. It's very difficult. It's also very expensive to buy Dubai chocolate. So I made many, many versions, and this is what we landed on. That's kind of like an easy version that's inspired by Dubai chocolate. It's not Dubai chocolate, but it has some of the same flavors and textures in a way. So, what we're going to do is rather than using a pre-made pistachio cream, which can also be quite expensive, we're just going to grind up some pistachios. And pistachios are a bit pricey. These were $22 a pound, and you need half a pound. But some stores, they're a bit more affordable, like Trader Joe's. I think half a pound is like $6 or so. We might be able to find them in bulk elsewhere. But I want raw pistachios. So the fillings, or that's what I used actually, but you could do toasted pistachios. Usually when you toast nuts, it will enhance the flavor. So you could do that. It might just be a little harder to grind up. So we need 8 ounces of raw pistachios, which is about a cup and a half. So I have a 3/4 cup, so I'm just gonna do two of those to get 1.5 cups. Okay. Now, if you want, you can peel the pistachios. So if you see on here, the pistachios have a little bit of what do you call this? A shell? A skin. Thank you. They've been shelled, but they still have skin on them. And it's totally fine to eat. It will just give the mixture a darker color and it will have kind of a nicer flavor without it, but I don't think it's a huge difference and it's so much work. I have peeled pistachios. If you want to do it as like a mindful activity, you could give it a try. But basically you soak the pistachios in hot water and then it will loosen the skins and then you can peel them off. But you do kind of have to do each one individually. So it will take you about 20 minutes probably. Okay, so I'm just doing raw with the skin on. And I'm just gonna chop them up in the food processor until it's kind of like a course meal. If you wanted to have pistachio butter, you would have to process these for 20 minutes or maybe a few hours. That's probably one reason why pistachio butter or pistachio cream is made from pistachio butter. It's so expensive. I saw it yesterday at the store at Berkeley Bowl. They had a few options. They're all pretty small jars, like this big. You can see that. The cheapest one was $13 and the most expensive was like 23. So it is kind of pricey. So I think this is a little bit of a cheaper and easier way to do it. When I first start the food processor, it's going to be really loud. So it will get kind of quiet after that, but just going to warn everybody, you might want to plug your ears for the first few seconds. Okay, ready? Here we go. Okay, so it's very short. I'm going to get 2 more seconds. Okay, let's show you what this looks like. You can still see it's a beautiful green color, but it will be even more vibrant green if you do peel the pistachios. So that's kind of what we're looking for. It doesn't have to be too fine. All right, now we're going to add the other ingredients that are going to help flavor this mixture and also help it stick together. So we're going to use agave nectar. You could use any other liquid sweetener, but it should be liquid. Otherwise, it's not going to help hold everything together. And we don't need it to be super sweet because we are also coating everything in some chocolate. So I'm going to use a 1/4 cup of agave. I like to use agave because I think it's one of the more affordable of the liquid sweeteners compared to, say, honey. And if you wanted this to be specifically vegan, then you wouldn't want to use honey. Okay. We're also going to flavor it with some vanilla. This vanilla is delicious, makes everything taste extra good. So we need 2 teaspoons of that. 2 teaspoons vanilla extract. And just a pinch of salt. So I'm just doing a little handful. Or not a handful. Don't do a handful. A pinch. Just a pinch. Okay. I'm also going to add tahini to help hold everything together and make it a little bit creamier. I think if you have a hard time finding it or don't want to buy the tahini, I think it will stick together without it, but I am just going to add a tablespoon of this. It'll give it also a nice little bit of sesame flavor. And I believe some Dubai chocolate, whoops, is they sometimes put tahini in the filling as well. So if you have the sample already, you'll notice that the inside is not crunchy like Dubai chocolate, the outside is crunchy. And I had the hardest time making a filling that would keep the crunchy part crunchy once it was mixed together. So I haven't tried it with the shredded phyllo. It's called kataifi. I toasted it in butter or vegan butter, and so it's nice and dark and crunchy, and it still just went soft based on the filling that I was making. So I said, forget it. Let's just put it on the outside. Put the crunchy part on the outside, and it's a lot more foolproof. Okay, so then you can see maybe you see just kind of a glare, but it's starting to come together, and we're just going to keep running it until it kind of forms a dough ball. You can see, I don't know if you can see that it's kind of spinning around in there. So it's starting to form a dough ball, but let's give it let's scrape the sides to make sure it's all getting combined. Make sure it's easy to work with. Okay, there we go. So now it's pretty much ready when it starts when rolling around in the food processor like a big ball. Okay? So then we're going to make the individual truffles with this. And to make it a little bit easier, I'm going to use a mini cookie scoop. This is, I think, about a tablespoon. It just makes it easy. You can just kind of fill the cookie scoop and then put it on your baking sheet. So this one, honestly, is a little bit coarser than the previous ones I made. So if you want it to be a little finer, you could just process the pistachios a little bit more and kind of scrape down the sides. But I'll admit I'm going a little fast just to make sure we have time to do everything today. But yeah, the reason why we do the pistachios first is because that's really going to determine how fine they are. Once you start adding the sticky stuff, it's going to take a really long time to get a finer texture. So you want to make sure that you reach your desired texture before you start adding the other ingredients. And, if you don't like pistachios or don't want to use pistachios or they're a little too pricey, you could use, you could do this with almonds. You could use peanuts or just buy peanut butter. You could basically do the same recipe with peanut butter, and I'm sure it would taste really good. Like peanut butter and chocolate is a good combination. For the outside, or you could buy, actually, you could buy the pistachio butter if you wanted to still have the pistachio taste. So this should make about 2 dozen. And you could dip them just like this, but I freeze them to make them a little bit easier to work with. Just about an hour or so, and they should be kind of solid. And but they're pretty solid now, so they should be easy to dip. But yeah, there's all kinds of variations you can do. You can skip the cornflakes on the outside if you don't want them to be crunchy. But yeah, we have other chocolate candy type recipes on our website. My personal favorite is the peppermint patties. And whenever I make them, people are like, wow, I didn't know you could make them. Like, what is a peppermint patty? So it's basically powdered sugar, a liquid sweetener. I think I use agave, peppermint extract, and some butter. So you just mix those, and then you kind of do the same process where you make the little patties and freeze them and dip them in chocolate. Kind of a nice holiday treat. Actually, they're good. Oh, thank you. Yeah, I usually make extra and I just keep them in the freezer and eat them throughout the year. Okay, so that is the mixture. But nutritionally, we didn't add a whole lot of sweetener here. So when you make your own candies, you can control how sweet they are. And with the pistachios, we're getting some healthy fats, some fiber, a little bit of protein, and let's see if there's anything else I want to say about. Oh, pistachios also have potassium, which a lot of people don't get enough of. There aren't a lot of food sources that have a ton of potassium. A lot of fruits and vegetables have a little bit here and there, like 5 to 10% of what you would need in a day. Like we think of bananas, right? But bananas only have about 1/10 of the amount of potassium you need in a day. So that's why it's good to eat a variety of fruits and vegetables and plant foods to make sure you're getting all the different nutrients you need. And then we're also going to use dark chocolate, which is less sweet. And chocolate, especially dark chocolate, is rich in flavonols and has antioxidants. So, it has a little bit of health benefits and is very tasty too. So that's always good. The other thing I want to say, this recipe can be made vegan or dairy-free, which is sometimes hard to find with candies. So a lot of pistachio paste has milk in it. So if you don't want milk, then this is one way you can kind of do it yourself. Okay, so this would go in the freezer. But let's do, yeah, okay. So I'm going to pretend those are frozen. and we are going to dip them in chocolate now. So what I'm going to use is this pan to serve as a double boiler, but you can also melt the chocolate in a microwave. So they actually sell contraptions that are double boilers. They kind of look like two pots that are stacked on top of each other. But if you don't have one, you can just use a saucepan and a metal bowl. But just be careful because the bowl will get hot and the water coming out under it is steam, which of course is hotter than boiling water. So be very careful. Maybe use an oven mitt. And the water does not need to be boiling either. So just be careful with that. Okay. The recipe calls for 9 ounces of chocolate, which should be enough. So what I did was I used some of this already, some chocolate chunks. You could definitely use chocolate chips for this, so that would be easier. But if you are making anything that's chocolate coated and you want the chocolate to be glossy and to have a snap and to not melt as easily when you touch it, you want to use tempered chocolate. So if you've watched any like baking shows, you've maybe seen them with the marble slab and they're, working the chocolate on the marble. They're tempering it in a way that is a little more advanced. So I'll show you kind of a more basic way to do it. It's not perfect, but it's a lot easier to handle. So I bought 1 bag of these chocolate chunks, which is like a chocolate bar that's already broken down. But I wanted to save a couple bucks, so then I bought the rest of the chocolate I needed in the bar format, so I wouldn't have extra. So when you temper chocolate, again, chocolate chips don't work because I think they have more cocoa butter. And so they don't have the right consistency to start with. But that's they have less cocoa butter. And that's why you use them in things like chocolate chip cookies because they're designed so that the chocolate doesn't completely melt in the cookies. But if you're tempering the chocolate, you don't want that. So you could buy chocolate in bar form. You can buy it already broken up. There's also chocolate sold and it's called couverture. I don't know if I found that right. I think it's a French word. And that is good for tempering. So the easy way to do it is called a seeding method. And basically this chocolate that I have here in bars is already tempered. It has the right crystals that create the shinier texture. So we're going to melt 2/3 of the chocolate, which is going to change the structure of those crystals. And then we're going to add the remaining chocolate, about 1/3, that has the correct form of crystals, and it's going to seed the melted chocolate so that they can take on that same crystalline structure. So we just want to chop these up into smaller bits so that they don't take too long to melt because we're going to turn off the heat. Can it chunks be used as seeding? Yeah. Yeah, the chunks that I bought that I put in already those also could be used for seeding. I just I was being a little cheap and I bought the bar, which takes a little more work. I don't think it actually costs less. I didn't need the bag has a little more chocolate. I didn't need quite that much, so that's why I did that this way. Okay. Okay, so again, this can get really hot. But when you're making a double boiler this way, just make sure you use a bowl that's bigger than the pot that you're using. And again, the water doesn't need to boil. Chocolate melts pretty easily. If you've ever left chocolate in a hot car, you don't need it to be 200 degrees. I think chocolate starts melting probably around 90 or maybe lower, right? Because it melts in your mouth. And our body temperature is around 98, 99. Okay, so that's starting to melt. So I'm not gonna have it be boiling. Um, so yeah, if you do there's other ways to temper chocolate. And if you've seen on TV, people doing the marble slab, basically the marble stays cool, so it slowly brings down the temperature of the chocolate so that it can form the right crystals to be tempered. It's a little harder to do. So I like the seeding method. And if I were to do this in the microwave, I would just put 2/3 of the chocolate in a microwave safe bowl, like a ceramic bowl. Oh, you can't see my bowl there, but and then I would heat it for 30 seconds, stir it, um, heat it again, just repeat, keep and stirring after 30 seconds because chocolate burns really easily. So you don't want to heat it for too long. So once it's burnt, it's pretty much ruined. And then once it's melted like this, see, it's melted, then take it out and stir in the remaining 1/3 of the chocolate. Let's just do that. And this does take a little bit of patience because you're just using the residual heat from the melted chocolate to melt the remaining, so you do have to stir it quite a bit. Usually takes a couple of minutes. But I'm gonna let that kind of try to melt itself here while I do the other step. So for the crunch, we're doing cornflakes. And we need about 2 cups. The recipe says 2 cups, but I would use a little bit less if you can. I'll show you the kind of consistency you're looking for, because if you add too much, it will be too chunky and it won't really stick to the pistachio filling. Okay, so I'm gonna do 1.5 cups. So I'm doing 3/4 cup times 2. Whoops. Throw these in there. And yeah, honestly, if you want to make a really easier version well, it's not really even a version, but if you wanted a really easy chocolate snack, you could just cover cornflakes in chocolate. You don't even have to mash them up. They even sell chocolate bars that are cornflake chocolate bars, so kind of get the same effect. So I'm using a reusable bag. And you could roll a rolling pin over, oops. I lost a few. It does open. I kind of forgot about that. But yeah, I just kind of mash it up with my hands. I find that to work well enough. Or you could use a mallet or something. But then when you shake it up,
But
you don't want a powder. Yeah, so you want a little bit of a texture. So that's kind of why I like to do it by hand, so I can keep an eye on it. But the small pieces will fall to the bottom. You shake it. I don't know if you can really see that. So the bigger pieces are on top, so I just kind of crush them up a little bit. Okay. Let's give this a stir. It's almost melted. Yeah, if you like the chocolate with the crunch, we have another recipe. I think it's on our website. Yeah, it's you just take Rice Krispie cereal and throw that in chocolate and then pour it into a pan. So it's a little bit thicker, like a half an inch or so, and then you cut it into little chocolate bars, and it's like a crunch bar. Okay. So I can see just a little bit of glare. That chocolate looks nice and melted. I don't know if you can tell by the way I'm stirring it, but it's definitely thicker. If it's yeah, it feels thicker than when I first started when the chocolate was on the heat. And it's pretty cool. So another way to tell if your chocolate is well tempered, which doesn't matter too much for this recipe because we're not going for as smooth of a finish, but it's tempered around, I forget for dark chocolate, I think it's like 90 degrees or 88 or so. So if you put a little dab on your wrist, if it feels cool to the touch, then it's ready. Because we know that our body temperature is like 99. So if it's cooler than our body temperature, it's probably like in the low 90s, high 80s. So once it starts cooling down too much, around 70 or even 80, it's going to be hard. So you'll know that it's not ready if it's hardened. Okay. So I'm just going to pour the cornflakes in. I'm not going to do it all yet. So I would eyeball this. You want it to still like flow a little bit so that it can coat the pistachio balls. If it's too thick, it will be a little difficult to work with. So, don't add all the cornflakes right away. Kind of stir it up and see how it looks. So I think this is kind of what we're looking for. I want all of the cornflakes coated, but you can see it still kind of flows, like the chocolate will still drip off the spoon. And then you do want to work a little bit quickly here because once chocolate is tempered, it will start cooling pretty quickly. And to the point where you can't really work with it. But the good thing about this recipe with the having the cornflakes in the chocolate is it's very forgiving. If you've ever tried to dip something in chocolate that was perfectly smooth, it can be kind of difficult to make sure there's no like marks or anything on the outside of the chocolate. But this is already bumpy, so it doesn't matter too much. Yeah, and I sampled a lot of these with friends and coworkers, and some people said that the outside, or this kind of reminds them of like a Ferrero Rocher candy with the crunchy on the outside. So you can also achieve it being crunchy on the outside with like chopped nuts or something, like chopped hazelnuts or chopped pistachios. But I would use a toasted nut in that case to make sure it's crunchy. So anyway, you just kind of repeat that. And that's how it should look. There's a lot of glare. Is it focusing? It's kind of dark. But also when they're frozen, they'll pretty much harden right away. So that's another reason why it helps to freeze them. Okay, let's set those aside. All right, so that's one recipe. What should we do next? Okay, next we're gonna make the toum, which again is the Lebanese garlic dip. And it's very garlicky. Think of it kind of like aioli or a mayo, because basically we're making it similar to mayo. It's an emulsion. So this recipe does take some patience. All emulsions take a little bit of time. You don't want to break the emulsion because then you can't really get it back at that point. So this dip could be used for like grilled meat. You could use this as a dip for vegetables or bread. You could use it like mayo as a spread on sandwiches. Or you could put it on top of garlic bread and use it as your garlic bread. Again, it's very garlicky. It's pretty potent because we are using a whole cup of raw garlic cloves. And what I read, if it's a little too powerful for you, you can soak the garlic in ice water for half an hour and then drain it and dry it really well, and that will kind of make the garlickiness a little bit milder. So again, we're using a food processor. If you don't have one, it could be made with a mortar and pestle. That's how it was made back in the day. It will just take a lot longer. So we were just talking before class, like, what are your favorite kitchen tools? Mine is the food processor. I use it all the time. And what I'm showing today is just using the regular blade, but there's also like shredding attachments. If you need to shred a bunch of vegetables or cheese or something, it'll do it in less than a minute. If you get this kind. But also You can make this dip that we're doing right now in a small food processor. You have one of those mini ones, it'll work there. You probably just need to cut the recipe in half, but it does make a lot, so you might, even if you have a bigger one, you might want to try just making a half recipe. But it will not work in a blender, unfortunately. Okay, so we need 1 cup of garlic cloves. So I prepared some of them already because this part is a little time consuming, but I also wanted to demonstrate how to do it. And it's really important to use the freshest garlic you can for this recipe. So again, it's mostly raw garlic, so the freshness matters because we don't want to be too bitter. So what you want to look for if you go to the grocery store to buy the garlic is actually you want it to be really plump. So I would probably buy it like the day of or the day before. I don't know if you can tell. I think this one is a pretty good example. It looks pretty plump. It's not like going in at certain points. The paper is pretty intact. There's no spots. You can tell there's some big, nice plump cloves on the outside. If you can buy it at the farmer's market, even better. You know, it's probably fresher. And it's probably tempting, but I wouldn't buy the pre-peeled garlic cloves, which means you have to peel them yourself. Can everybody see this okay? Should I move something around? Let's just put that there. Hopefully you can see that. This will be my little garbage section. Okay. So we'll just pull out a few clips here. And they do make a tool for peeling garlic that's like a silicone little sleeve that you can put the clove in, but you know, we don't need these to be whole cloves. So we can smash them a little bit and that's okay. Okay. So if you just kind of put the knife on and smack it, it will the paper will come off pretty easily. And then we also need to remove the little sprout inside the garlic clove, which is the germ, because that can be kind of bitter. So this part is a little time consuming, but again, this does make a lot and it will last for a few months in the fridge. Or yeah, if you want to give this as a holiday gift, you know, you could make one big batch and then portion it out into little jars as a gift. But it should be refrigerated, so keep that in mind if you're gifting it. All right, that's probably enough. Okay, so first we're gonna cut off the little stem end. So you can see that's like harder and it's a little bit brown. We're gonna cut that off. And then we're gonna remove the sprout from the inside. So all garlic cloves have it. Maybe you've never noticed it. I didn't pay much attention to it before, unless it, like sometimes if it's green and it's growing out the side, you'll see that. So let's see if it will focus on that. There's a little circle. Can you tell there's like a little circle in the bottom? So that's it. So we're gonna cut this in half. And it's gonna be really hard to see. But if you look at that circle on the bottom and trace it up, there's a little thing here and it will just pop out with the knife. You see that? Oh, there it goes. Okay, so that's the germ. Let's see if I can do that again.
You take them out even if they're not green.
Yeah. Yeah, they contribute to a little bit of a bitter flavor. Not doing a good job with that. I can't really see what I'm doing when I hold it up there. So again, just cut off the bottom in half. You can see at the top on this end, there's a little gap where it hasn't grown yet. So that kind of shows you where it is. Yeah, if the garlic is older, it will be green. So that kind of helps you tell if it's fresh. Okay, so we want 1 cup. So let me just do a couple more real quick. And then I'm going to cut off any like brown discolored things too. or anything that's bruised.
You said it does work in a blender, even a high-powered Vitamix.
From what I've read, people don't recommend using that. And I think it's probably because of the emulsion part. I think that's hard to achieve. Oops, hard to achieve in a blender. And I'll show you what I mean once we get this going.
Could you use it on an immersion blender?
Um, I'm not sure if that would work. It might work. It might just take a long time. Okay. Let's do one more. Just make sure we have enough. There. Okay. All right. So 1 cup of cloves. And then we're gonna add salt. That's gonna help season it, but we're also gonna use coarse salt, which is gonna help break down the cell walls and create the emulsion for the dip. So we need 2 teaspoons. If you use kosher salt, I'm just using like a coarse sea salt. Ugh. I'm a messy cook, you can't tell. Okay. This little bit. Oh. Okay. So, what does it say? So first we are going to process it for about a minute until the garlic becomes finely minced. And we're going to scrape down the sides to make sure that it's all in there. Okay. So I will say if you have a bigger food processor and you make it like a half batch, it's a little bit harder because it will get stuck to the sides. So just keep that in mind. You might have to scrape the sides a little bit more often.
Yeah, I got a combo that it's a blender and a food processor, and the food processor so huge. I'm like, it's just too big for anything.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's tricky for small batches of things like sauce. You have a large food processor. Okay, so this is kind of what we're looking for. Just like a fine mince on the garlic. If you can see that. Okay, so now we're ready to start creating our emulsion. Okay, so I'm actually going to put the lid on because if you have a food processor like this, you'll notice the lid has a little cup in it, and the little cup has a tiny hole, and that is for making things like this. It will drizzle for you, so you don't have to do it yourself. So we're gonna start with a couple tablespoons of oil. And you just want to use neutral flavored oil like canola, sunflower, safflower. I wouldn't use something with a stronger flavor like olive oil. Okay, so now we're going to turn it on. And I'm just going to put the oil into the little well on top. And I don't know if you can see if you're here, it's very slowly drizzling it into the mixture. So then you can kind of multitask. So we need some lemon juice. So we need half a cup. If you roll the lemon on the cutting board first, that will just help break down the cell walls there a little bit too. And make it a little bit easier to squeeze. And usually, sorry for my mess, usually 1 lemon, depending on the size, will have about a 1/4 cup. Probably need a couple of lemons. Okay, so next we're gonna check the food processor. And we want to curate until the garlic starts looking creamy, which I would say we're almost there. It's sort of looking like a loose mashed potato or something. So it's starting to look creamy. Now, yeah, this again does take a lot of patience. You can't rush the emulsion, which I made the mistake of doing the first time, where I think I took this part off and I poured the oil straight in very slowly, but it was still too fast. So just make sure you go nice and slow. We'll do 2 more tablespoons. In total, we need 3 cups of oil, which sounds like a lot, but again, it's going to make a lot. And again, think of this like a mayo. You know, you're not going to be eating this by the spoonful. Maybe you will. It's pretty tasty, but that would be a lot. So I think it's easier to like measure out your oil ahead of time. So I already added a 1/4 cup. And this only holds 2 cups, so I'm gonna have to add another 3/4 cup to this. Maybe I should have made half a batch. For the examples, it takes half as long. Okay, so then you're gonna alternate. I'm sorry, I think there was a typo on the recipe. You're supposed to add half a cup of oil and alternate with lemon juice. I think it says add half a cup of oil and then alternate with a teaspoon or a tablespoon of oil. It should be a half a cup of oil and then a tablespoon of lemon juice. And overall, it should take you about 15 minutes. So it should give you an idea of how long it should take. No, maybe you didn't have to. Let's see how much lemon juice. Okay, so I got with 2 lemons so far, I got almost half a cup. Right, so maybe we need about 3 lemons. Let's take a look. Okay, so it's starting to emulsify now. See how it's starting to get a little thick and sort of whipped? That's what no lemon. Yeah, right. Yeah, no lemon juice yet. Let's take that. Okay, so I probably won't have time to finish this in the demo, but I'll keep it going after if you want to see. You can stay a few extra minutes and see how it looks, but hopefully you can tell from the sample what the consistency is supposed to be. It's supposed to be kind of fluffy. Let's do this smarter way. Tablespoon oranges. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of keep that running while we do the last recipe. Which I don't really need to demonstrate, honestly. We're just throwing things into a jar. So this is an MSG all-purpose seasoning. So you know, MSG kind of got a bad reputation in the 1960s, but it was not based on good studies. Basically, a doctor wrote a letter to a medical journal and said, I ate Chinese food and I didn't feel well, I got a headache. I think it was the MSG. There was like one study on mice that in giant amounts, the mice had issues with large amounts of MSG, but MSG is monosodium glutamate. It's 1 sodium plus glutamate, which is a form of the amino acid glutamic acid, which naturally occurs in tomatoes, Parmesan, all kinds of foods. It's just amino acid with sodium, and there's sodium and salt as well. So MSG actually has about 1/3 of the sodium as table salt, but it gives foods a really savory flavor. So in the samples, I did some mushrooms sauteed with a salt mixture and the same seasoning. And the other ones I put MSG to see if you taste the extra savoriness. There's already a lot of savory umami flavor in mushrooms. But you get even more from MSG. So um, it's I recommend using it to replace some salt. Usually use it as a combination. So I'm not going to show how to make it because we're just putting everything into a jar. But it's half a cup of MSG, which you can buy in little containers. Usually the brand is Accent, that's how you can find it. Or you can buy a big bag like this that will probably take you years to use, but I think I got this for like $6 or something. So it's really cheap. Um, and then the other seasoning in there is just black and white pepper, a little bit of cayenne, which you can leave out if you don't want it to be salty, and garlic and onion powder. So onion powder is really powdery, and when you open it, will kind of you'll inhale it. So if you don't want that, you can skip the onion or use like granulated onion or something else. Um, let's see. So we have a couple more minutes. I just want to talk about the MSG a little more. So yeah, you can use it to add umami flavor to your vegetables. You can add it to soup or stew. Just make sure you are using less salt. You can add it to eggs, avocado toast, potatoes, meat, really whatever you want. So, I think a lot of people have heard of MSG. Oh, it's actually safe, but you don't think to use it or don't know how to use it. So I wanted to introduce you on how you can use it and the benefit of actually consuming less sodium, but still your food tastes really, really good. It's a flavor enhancer. It is it's made by fermenting starches like sugarcane, corn, or beets, so kind of a similar process to making yogurt or vinegar. And then I'll say, studies haven't confirmed any adverse health effects in the general population. There's a very small percent of people who might still not feel well when they eat it, and if that's the case, then you can avoid MSG. But most studies have shown that people only had negative effects when they ate like 3 grams, which is a very large amount, and without food. Most people eat MSG with food, right? So it's considered quite safe. So I think that's pretty much it. Let me show you what this looks like now. So, okay, can you see that? How the oil is that's how slowly it's going in, just to give you an example. So let's take a look. So this honestly is kind of how it should look. I would just keep going and adding more lemon juice and oil. So it should kind of stand up and just be kind of like a fluffy mayo. And you can see I still have a lot more to add, so it's going to make quite a lot. If you don't want this much, try a half that. Give it away to friends. So that was all we have time for. So if you're here in person, we're going to do our raffle now. And let me show you what we have. This